I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Jordan Bateman, BC Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Welcome back to the show, Jordan.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
Well, I know you have the sharpest pencils in town. What government cost blow-up should we be looking at right now?
Well, as we speak, the mayors and councillors, regional district directors, and a bunch of senior city staff from across British Columbia are gathered in Victoria for the annual Union of BC Municipalities Bun Toss. If you're happy to listen to this in Victoria, I would give you a warning. Aggressive panhandling mayors may be in town. They've certainly got their hands stuck out for more money from the provincial government, the federal government, and taxpayers. It's a meeting of 2,000 city officials where the biggest complaint will be, we need more money from everyone.
Well, one source of income I'm kind of worried about is even with the big jump in real estate prices in Vancouver, they've also fallen some 26% since the start of the year. What about the municipal property tax assessments? They're going to be judging you on the value of property that's fallen almost 30%.
Yeah, so how that works is it doesn't really matter what yours has fallen in the raw or the change in yours in the raw. It's a comparison to every other home in the municipality. So whatever municipality you live in, I'll use Langley as an example because that's where I live. If my house has gone up in value 7% this year, but the average house in Langley has only gone up 5%. What they do is municipal governments recalculate their mill rate and make sure that the average house pays the same amount in tax. Then what happens is they layer over top whatever property tax increase the council pays. So if your house dropped in value more than the average house, you'll actually save some money in taxes. If your house has gone up more than the average house has gone up in value, you'll actually get hit twice. You'll get hit with the city's usual property tax increase and then with a higher assessed value as well. So it just depends on where you are compared to the average. It's not the greatest system because certainly there's wide changes neighborhood to neighborhood, but it's the one that all the municipalities have settled in on.
Ross Kay, the real estate consultant, told me 90% of Canadians are over-assessed when it comes to paying property taxes. He said if you appealed, you have a lot of basis to argue for a lower tax rate. Do you have a new roof? Do you have new appliances? Did you put in new flooring? Is that new siding on the house? Did you resod the lawn? If the answer to any of those is no, well, he said only the top 10% of the real estate in your district usually sells. Are you in the top 10%? Well, no. You should obviously ask for a reassessment. What would happen to the assessment system if we all did that?
Well, that would be, I'm not sure what would happen. The truth is, they would just be deluged with these appeals, so the whole thing would grind to a halt. And then I guess maybe they'd have to reconsider what they were doing. That's an interesting idea, the idea that not every house is going up the same because the resale, when you go to actually sell your house, you're usually improving it before you go. It's kind of funny. My neighbors are selling their house after 6 years. We moved in at the same time. And yeah, sure enough, they've, you're exactly right, resodded their lawn. They've cleaned out a bunch of the clutter. They've replaced a couple of the appliances. And yeah, their house will sell now for quite a bit more than they purchased it for, and my assessment will go up. So I tell you what, Jim, I'm going to try out that argument this year and see if I can appeal down.
Go for it. You got
can't
nothing.
Hurt.
I was going to say can't
hurt.
hurt.
I've actually appealed before. Never had to go to the actual formal hearing stage, but they had compared us to a house on the block that had much larger side yard. It's a little bit bigger piece of property than everyone else had. Well, I live in a row house, so usually we're all kind of cookie cutter, but this one kind of brought us all up in price. And they did reduce our assessed value a little bit. So yeah, it's a weird system, the assessed value system, and it's actually one of the reasons why a lot of municipalities wish they could just get rid of property taxes altogether and go to straight share of the income tax.
I noticed on the local news that you had kind of a bugaboo in Surrey about a roundabout that they built that you feel is going to be overly expensive. Can you maybe explain why taxpayers are not getting a good deal there?
Yeah, I've got no problem with the roundabout itself. I mean, traffic circles are a good way of keeping traffic moving in not having it have stop signs or lights every few blocks. But what was really bothersome is it's kind of tucked away out of nowhere in Fraser Heights. And the city of Surrey inexplicably decided to put a $90,000 sculpture there. Now, no one has seen the sculpture. There's no designs yet available online, but they've announced that they're paying $90,000 for something, and it's going to go there as a piece of public art. The interesting thing is, the neighbors, so the people who actually would be looking at this roundabout, and one would assume would want something prettier than the average traffic circle, they don't want it. They're actually viciously opposed to it because they think it's such a waste of money compared to the other things that could be done, preferably in their neighborhood, but even across Surrey. So, media called and asked me about it, and, public art is one of those policies that, gets city councils into a lot of trouble. Calgary set the standard. They sort of, what they did is they said, look, 1% of every development project has to go to the city in cash so we can build more public art. That turned into a ton of cash during the oil boom. And Calgary was really stretching to find public art to put up. They have a blue hula hoop at one point, somewhere in the city. It cost them like $70,000. They have a sewage pump station that has LED lights on the side, and depending on how much flow is going through, it lights up different colors. So if it's halftime of the Super Bowl, it lights up like a Christmas tree, but if it's just kind of a normal day, it's a little bit, it's not as bright. Things like that people just never ask for and don't really understand why it's necessary and why that money is going to, those kind of projects when there's so many other things that could be spent on. Of course, the Main Street Poodle on a Pole may be the most famous piece of public art in Vancouver, $110,000 split by the federal government, province and TransLink. Doesn't make a lot of sense either. Commercial or Main Street and 16th Avenue, nothing to do with the local community. It's just a 7-foot poodle sitting on top of a 25-foot pole. So, public art, it seems to always get these councils into trouble because there's better priorities for that money.
Shouldn't they prioritize their spending instead of saying 1% is always going to go to art? Yeah,
definitely, spend the money on the things that people need or want. Surrey, the area of Surrey where this sculpture is going in, only has sidewalks on one side of most streets and no sidewalks on others. And, the neighbors are saying, look, just spend $90,000 and put in a couple sidewalks here and here. It's hard to argue with that, right? Like, it would be used a whole lot more than some sort of random sculpture that only the neighbors are going to see because, the average Surrey person doesn't drive through that neighborhood to go look at it.
Well, also, I don't want to put sculptures in the middle of a traffic circle because I want to be able to see the traffic on the other side.
Well, that's exactly it. You don't want to distract anyone in a traffic circle. And look, like, go to Vancouver, they have little traffic circles all over the place in some of these neighborhoods, and many neighbors adopt them and start gardening and make them just really stunningly beautiful. That's what you want. Like, let the public kind of adopt it. Let the neighborhood take it over and make it into something that they love instead of, dumping a piece of public art there because you happen to have money in the budget for it.
Well, I always thought community gardens were a good way to go. Let people grow something that they have pride in, and they'll look after the entire community to protect that pride.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it'd be great for the neighbors, right? This seems to be a very well-organized neighborhood. I've talked to the president of their neighborhood association. They have lots of people, they have a very robust Facebook page, apparently, where they talk about issues and crime issues and other things that are going on in their community. So, I think they would really take it over. I'll give you an example. Like in our little neighborhood, we have a lane that runs between two developments. Our neighborhood kind of took it over and have turned it into a little ferry lane. Like all the kids in the neighborhood have made little birdhouses and little ferry boxes and things like that and put them out there. And now people are starting to hear about and coming from other neighborhoods to see our little ferry lane. Do something like that with these roundabouts. Make it a source of neighborhood pride instead of having government bring the heavy hand of their rules and what they say fits into your neighborhood.
We'll have more with Jordan Bateman right after the break.
GEM International is a new diamond explorer in the richest diamond producing country in Africa, located next to the fourth largest producing diamond mine in the world. International Spotlight is on an 1109 carat diamond recently discovered in Africa by a fellow Canadian junior with a proven operator and finance team. GEM International trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol GI. Visit us at gemdiamondmining.com.
In Goddard we trust.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Jordan Bateman. BC has a 200-year supply of it. It's very cheap. It's plentiful. It's a low-pollution energy device. It's called natural gas, and the mayor of Vancouver wants to ban it.
Yeah, this is from the crazy mind of Gregor Robertson. In July, the city of Vancouver passed a strategy looking at what kind of energy mix they wanted to have in 2050. And if you look at their chart today, about 45% or so of all the energy in Vancouver is natural gas. And by 2050, their graph, they want that to be 0%. So this caused a lot of consternation because natural gas is by far the cheapest energy source going for British Columbians. Switching a house from natural gas to electricity would increase utility bills by at least $1,400 a year, more if it's a bigger place. Restaurants rely on natural gas, and the city of Vancouver has decided they're going to ban it. Now, they hate the word ban. They claim they're not banning it, but when you regulate or legislate something to try to get down to zero, that's banning. So they don't like the word, but it does show that the city of Vancouver really is out of touch when it comes to protecting or trying to find ways to make life cheaper for their residents.
So what are you supposed to do? Get on a bicycle and power up a generator to heat your house?
Yeah, so the funny thing is they decided that, when we blew this story up, they came out with this thing that, no, we'll still have renewable natural gas. Now, renewable natural gas sounds great, but it's actually 4 times more expensive than natural gas itself. Talking to Fortis BC, they have 108,000 conventional natural gas customers in the city of Vancouver. They have less than 150 renewable natural gas customers, and the reason why is it's 4 times more expensive. The other thing is you actually make renewable natural gas by capturing methane from landfills. And Jim, I don't know about you, but I'm not sure where we're going to put enough landfills in the Lower Mainland to generate enough methane so that we can have renewable natural gas to fuel all these places by 2050. So, that was really a weak justification by the mayor. His own strategy doesn't have any mention of renewable natural gas as part of their energy mix in 2050. It was kind of one of those things that he trotted out to try to save himself. One thing I got to hand to Vision Vancouver, Jim, after all these years of building bike lanes, they are very good at backpedaling, and they were busy backpedaling on this plan on Friday.
Well, considering that natural gas is Canada's most, prolific energy source, why would you want to get rid of it? And nobody claims that natural gas pollutes a lot, do they?
No, exactly. I mean, talk to Ontario where they're on coal. You kill to get on natural gas, cut their greenhouse gas emissions way down. Part of the whole push of LNG to China is getting Chinese cities off coal-fired power plants and putting them on the much cleaner natural gas. The amazing thing is the city of Vancouver today, their share of the overall greenhouse gas emissions in all of Canada is 1/3 of 1%. And Canada itself is only emitting about 1.5% of the overall emissions in the world. So we're talking about a tiny fraction. It's almost like taking a swimming pool and trying to empty it with an eyedropper. That's how little you're actually taking out by getting rid of natural gas. But meanwhile, you'll be increasing the cost of living for, 600,000 residents, however many people live here by 2050. It's mind-boggling. And it's mind-boggling too because many of the same people who support this policy oppose LNG exports, even though that would, help bring down Chinese greenhouse gas emissions. They oppose Site C Dam, which of course you would actually need 12 Site C dams to generate enough electricity to power British Columbia if we got off natural gas. It's just really, really a foolish policy and one that's driven more by ideology than actual wisdom or dollars and cents.
How much would it cost the average homeowner if they banned natural gas?
Well, at least $1,400 a year in higher utility costs, plus whatever it takes to convert your house. So right now, within 10 years, they want to basically have 0% natural gas going into any new building or any buildings that you need a building permit to renovate. So what we could see from the city of Vancouver is a situation where, let's say you need to replace the roof on your house, or you're going to add, you're going to convert the garage, or something like that, something you need a building permit for. They could very well demand that you get rid of all your natural gas appliances and whatnot as part of their building code and force you to move to the more expensive electricity. And before anyone out there says that can't happen, it is happening today. People are replacing the roofs. You'll get a permit from the city and are being forced to replace faucets and door handles and things that have nothing to do with their roof as part of the city of Vancouver's building code. So Vancouver is running amok. My hope is that residents are so outraged by this and unwilling to pay the freight for Vision Vancouver's utopia that they push back and make the case to keep their natural gas.
Vancouver banned doorknobs, right?
Yeah, they banned doorknobs, except on city council, apparently.
Well, that's a dork knob.
Oh, that's a different kind of knob. So they banned doorknobs because, everyone now has to have door handles. We did a study earlier this year. The city of Vancouver puts 108 different fees, taxes, and levies on new home construction. Forcing people to move to natural gas, even in new buildings, right? So let's say, okay, they backtrack and they say, forget it, we're not going to try to retrofit, that's crazy. But new buildings are all going to be electrical or on renewable energy. You're talking about $2,000 or $3,000 per door in a condo just to put in the electrical infrastructure you would need to do that. Plus, you're talking about higher utility costs. So again, you're kind of damning a whole generation of people buying new places in Vancouver to higher utility costs simply so that you can try to claim you're the greenest city in the world.
So in other words, Vancouver is making itself unaffordable before you bring in any foreign buyers and other myths.
Yeah, look, we've always said politicians need to look in the mirror. These same mayors who rail against foreign investors as the cause of unaffordability don't ever look in the mirror and ask how their own policies contribute to the cost. It's not uncommon for a $500,000 new condo to have, $125,000 worth of fees, taxes, and levies. That's way too high, and it, keeps people out of the market. And if you add higher utility costs on top of that, you're just going to be hurting even more people.
How much is the current royal visit to British Columbia costing taxpayers?
We haven't seen the figures yet. Generally, ballpark is usually, $10 to $12 million is usually what it ends up being, depending on how long they stay and whatnot. For us, it's an accountability thing. We would like government to be more transparent about the costs involved. We believe, we firmly believe God save the Queen, but we also believe in saving taxpayers a little bit of money too. So we're curious, as curious as everyone else, to see what the final bill will be.
Well, I remember when Princess Diana came to Burnaby to open up a special playground for children with disabilities. First of all, they paved the entire thing to make it look good, so that cost the city $100,000. The next day, they had to rip out all the pavement and put back all the foam padding and so on that wasn't ready to go for the grand opening. Today, that's abandoned, and it's just a regular playground. Special needs kids couldn't get to it because it's in a forest.
Hmm.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. you're right. A lot of these times, these things are done and they're ceremonial, and then they disappear. Kind of like the Olympic factor, right? Like if you ever want to have a depressing day, Google things like Yugoslavia Olympic venues or Athens Olympic venues. You'll see all these buildings, that cost hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, completely abandoned and taken over by wilderness now. I mean, it's pretty crazy.
Well, Vancouver is one of the few places where the venues were ready 2 years in advance and were being used. They're still being used today. So we're not too much of a white elephant, but certainly Sochi, $50 billion, and it's a ghost town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sochi's a great example. I'd argue the Richmond Oval was a complete waste of money. That was originally supposed to be up at SFU. Richmond bid to get it away. And today, yeah, there's gyms and stuff in there, but it's never really, it's overbuilt for the area it's in, and certainly, has cost, their taxpayers many millions of dollars, not the least of which is to send their, foolish mayor and council and senior staff to every subsequent Olympics, where they go to promote their, Olympic museum they have at the Oval. Pretty amazing to see, 3 or 4 mayors, councilors and city staff, even at this last Olympics, trying to promote Richmond. Just what a waste of money.
I think people in China know where Richmond is.
Yeah, chances are they've probably got a better connection than the mayor of Richmond would be able to provide.
Jordan, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Hey, anytime, Jim. Thanks for having me.
My guest has been Jordan Bateman, BC Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, their website, taxpayer.ca. You're listening to the Goddard Report on TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. Questions for the show can be emailed to info@howstreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.